Hey guys, just over a month ago we started this 30-day challenge, and now we're going to look at what I actually learned, whether it helped or whether I still suck at Kalista. The idea was to take a difficult champion I haven't played in ages, I'm not very good at, and see how much better I could get. If you enjoyed watching this series, let me know and I'll do it again with another champion, and I think we can do it a bit better as well. A short version is I got a lot better over a relatively short space of time. It was a bit boring and I'm kind of a bit stuck where one champion is much better than all of my others, but it did help me climb. I played around 80 games, mostly across 2 accounts, a Diamond 3 account and a Plat 2 one, which is about a Diamond 5 MMR. The first week was rough, like a 30% win rate on my Diamond 3 account. It was hard, man. Learning the champion and how to win with her, actually, like having to win my lane or just get outscaled, basically. It did get better and better, thankfully. My win rate is now back up to 50% about on my main account with 7 wins and 3 losses in my last 10. My other account has almost a 70% win rate now over 25 games played. The more I played, the more I could consistently win my lane, game in, game out, doing almost the same things actually. It wasn't because I'm amazing, but because that is what Kalista is supposed to do. Like, you learn what your champion is good at and you play around that element, if that makes sense. We're gonna get into what you can take from this though, no matter like who you actually play. The good stuff about maining a champion that hard for a month is you're gonna win more. It becomes a lot easier to be consistent and string wins together, which is actually what lets you climb. Your general mechanics will be better on that champion specifically. You don't have to think about basic stuff as much, so you can do the advanced things. On others as well though, you're just going to be better in general. You're going to understand the game a lot more. You will not tilt as much in general. I felt more in controlling games, like know how you can win so you don't give up as easily. It's also the extra cool stuff as well. Like when people think, wow, that was a sick play, that is just you pushing your limits. The bad stuff is you will lose to start with, and it can be pretty demoralizing. Having a 30% win rate when you're trying to play in ranked is actually pretty sad. If you're like me, you're going to get bored of one champion all month, and now I've only played Kalista for a month. My other AD carries feel really different. If I play other stuff, I do okay, but I don't carry anywhere near as hard because it's not the same playstyle. I will say overall though, if all you care about is gaining elo, then this is kind of confirmed my thing that mainly a champion is a really good way to give it a boost. The issue kind of is that I am boned if I don't get Kalista right now. So in long term, like if you do get bored as well, I reckon there is a better way. Playing one champion is great because you learn how to win. You learn how to play the game to your advantage. If you picked 2 to 3 champions you enjoyed but have similar playstyles, then that would be the best, I think. That way you don't get as bored, but whichever 3 you play, you're making the others better at the same time. Like with Kalista, maybe if I start to play Draven as well, that would be okay. He's just as aggressive early and wants to fight a lot, but with somebody like Sivir or Twitch that I'm playing now, I keep dying because I go way too ham. If I said like, okay, let's play as Twitch, Sivir, and Jinx for a month, they all have different parts to them you're going to need to learn, but ultimately they are about the same game plan, like farm and carry fights. Now sure, they do that in different ways. Twitch is more like roaming and stuff, like Sivir is kind of grouping with her team and her W bounces. Jinx is really just right clicking with her rockets, but they're all designed to do the same kind of thing. If I'm honest, I reckon that would be the best way to climb the game and not go crazy at the same time. As an example of the groups of champions I kind of look for in lanes, like playstyles, AD carry, you can either have like the lane bully, Kalista, Draven, or you can have the late game carry. For mid lane, you have like a push and roam style, which is very common, or you can have this kind of crush lane like an Orianna, who's very good in the lane phase but doesn't really roam well. For top lane, you could have tanks or like team fighters, those kind of bracket of players, or you could have split push stuff. For jungle, we could have heavy gankers or heavy farmers. The idea is learning stuff on one champion that you can still use on the others. Now also, in my opinion, it's a bit try hard, but what helped me a lot was making a spreadsheet. I know this is so nerdy, but hear me out. It's like being accountable for yourself, I guess. You cannot tilt or give up as easily because that game is going to be recorded as a loss on your chart and bring your win rate down. It also helps you improve a ton, honestly, and figure out what is going wrong, which can be kind of hard. So there are 2 sides to this for me. One sheet with a win-loss for each day and one sheet with what happened in those games. For the wins, I tried to write down good things that I did that made me win, and for the losses, I tried to write down the things that set me really far behind. So it's easier to start with preventing the losses, so you can just look at what keeps popping up. Now, being ganked was my #1 thing in the first week. I knew that I had to play aggressive to get a lead and get ahead or I'd be outscaled, but I was drawing like so much attention. Now, I didn't really think about this much at all, but looking back after that first week at what I had wrote, like the word ganked kept coming up. I thought about it, like how do I play aggressive, how do I win but not get ganked, and the answer was to freeze. So I started doing that, and the next week being ganked was nowhere near as much of a problem, and I started winning more games. The point is, like, it's very easy to lose track of why you win or lose. Normally you just see that blue or red in your match history. I probably wouldn't have realized being ganked was such a big issue actually if I hadn't seen it written down in front of me so many times. If you start to write down that why part, like then you'll figure out what the issue is in each game much easier, and you're going to start to climb much easier. There are definitely 4 things I got a lot better at, so mechanics and build pathing and stuff, like learning your champion damage, how to win with the champion, and knowing how you lose with your champion. Mechanics and build stuff didn't take that long to figure out, but what did was how I'm going to win with Kalista every game. For me, this kind of came down to winning lane, fighting a lot, putting the enemy AD behind so they took even longer to outscale. This is a really big thing. It's not about me getting ahead, it's about me putting the enemy AD behind. 2 things I majorly adjusted to were freezing my lane, let them push a little bit, keep it in my tower, deny them farm. So I needed to fight, right? And this lets me do it by making them come to me. Any kill lane or aggressive player can use this strategy in any single lane. The other thing was rotating top after my tower, so lane swapping as an AD. This was the advice from Treats after he coached me, but swapping after I got the tower meant I could get another one and keep using my lead, like my strong phase in the game. It let me control the pace of the game a lot more. I'll probably do a video on this actually if you want to see how to lane swap properly as an AD and kind of get some free wins out of it. These 2 things were like the big click moment for me, where I started winning a ton more even against good players, just using the matchup to my advantage, having a game plan rather than autopilot like they were. Now just as important is knowing how you lose a game though. So on my other account, the reason I've won a lot more so far is because I actively avoid what will make me lose. It sounds really obvious and very dumb, but like when I play against a Kog'Maw or a Twitch, I know we have to stomp or I will get outscaled, and that was kind of the mistake I was making at the very start. That in itself, knowing I have to do that, makes me be more active, it makes me trade more, try to roam more, all because I know if I don't, I am going to lose the game. It sounds really weird, but when you know what your champion loses to, you're going to start to learn how to really avoid that happening in the first place. Even though that account is like high plat diamond 5 games and stuff, I don't out mechanic people very often. I just know my champion better, and that legit is all it is. They're going to kind of coast the game a lot, just push or whatever, whereas I'm like, okay, I have to do this now, I have to fight, I have to roam, I have to freeze, I have to get a lead or I'm going to lose. That means that I'm the one in control and they are kind of chasing my plays. Like I'm the first to rotate and then they have to catch back up afterwards. That is what wins me the most, honestly. So with mechanics and build path, mechanics kind of happen like on their own, obviously, you just practice, but they got better over time, which is obviously good. The build path was cool, like builds on sites and stuff are a good starting point, but it depends on you really. Knowing when to build what will help you win more as well, I think. So for me, like when I'm against tanks, I now go Rage Bait Kalista. It's a really good way of shredding arm-based tanks. Probably another video about that coming soon too. But with bruisers, I normally go Phantom Dancer. The percentage reduction in damage is actually really handy to stay alive, and against heavy crowd control, I normally go Mercurial third. It's just little things where I slowly learn what I should build and stop building as much defense as well, the more comfortable I got. The final big thing I said was learning my champion damage on my limits, so knowing which fights I will likely win or lose in lane, and I honestly learned that by dying a lot. It's also how long I can stay in team fights, and it is just time, it's experience, but it's really, really important. It's kind of like, how are you ever going to make a sick play and carry really hard if you don't push the limits of the champion you're playing? The thing is, how can you push that limit of the champion if you don't even know what your limit is? That is what it comes down to more than anything. That is what you have to learn. For Kalista specifically though, you need to get ahead, so you're going to need to fight. Like, it's not really an option. Just farming is not a good idea. For trading, auto-attacking a minion to leave a rend stack in it, then autoing a champion, like you rend afterwards to kill the minion so you get the refresh cooldown, that is the best way to take short trades. It's something that I found really difficult at the very start, but the easy way of doing it is to do it in that order. So you attack a minion and then you attack a champion and then you can just rend to kind of proc it. Another thing was actually not being afraid to use my E cooldown as just a general ability. It sounds really stupid, but we're kind of trained to only use it when we can get a reset, and that's not really the best way of playing. If you get 3 to 4 stacks of rend in a champion and then you press your E, it's going to do a big chunk of damage, and that is another way that I found to get a bigger lead in lane. When you get your Blade the Ruined King, it's a massive power spike for you. The slow, the active is really good for fighting people, but it's not actually just that, it's also the Cutlass. The slow and the damage from that is really good, and it's not that expensive either. So once you get that, you actually get a big spike in power that most people don't abuse. The whole lane swapping idea, like to top lane to get another tower, is a really good way to use your power a bit more and cause more fights. One of the things is that with Kalista, you do want to fight a lot early game, right? So it's about making situations where the enemy team has to fight you. One of those is going to be causing friction by going to the top lane and the enemy top laner, maybe the jungler comes and stuff. You can probably 2v2 that, and that is going to cause a fight which you come out on top of and you get even further ahead. Freezing your lane is another way of doing this. Near your tower, throwing your support in is such a free way to get kills. It is unreal. It's so easy. Playing Kalista is really about thinking in your head, how am I going to kill this person next? And your ultimate is a really free way of doing it. I see a lot of people only use it defensively, but no, just throw them in and pick a fight. In team fights as well, even if you don't need to, like, pick up your support for the knock-up. It is not a defensive tool, it's an offensive one. It's actually a big difference. It's like an Alistair Q knock-up. The game is all about making the enemy come to you and then throwing in your support to engage. That is the easiest way to catch people. Just a quick mention on build as well, just something I kind of picked up is really I would like going 3 damage items and then a defensive item afterwards. This means I'm going to have enough damage with my 3 items, which is great, but after that you don't really need more damage on Kalista. Like, that is your strong phase of the game. You're not going to get much stronger. You don't have great scaling with items anyway, so something like a More Man Mortis or Frozen Mallet is really good. Anyway, that about sums up my 30-day Kalista challenge. Let me know how you got on if you did it with me as well. Thank you for watching, but for now I'll leave you with the robots.